So you guys all showed up. So this is my first time speaking in front of like a bigger crowd of people, and I want to talk about value. Value and communication and language and how we communicate that, bring value to our own businesses, bring value to the people that we help. Do you remember the kid that always asked why, and you just kind of like wanted to smack him sometimes? That was me. But what I didn't realize was that I was setting myself up for a career that would be involved with asking why in every facet of the job. Customer experience management. It's something that is sort of new in the industry. And how we communicate value, I've learned a really kind of scary statistic. We talk about the ROI of these initiatives. We talk about the ROI of different branding initiatives and marketing strategies. And when you go to CX, what we found was that almost 90% of these initiatives were failing. Yet all the statistics showed 70% ROI increase. This is going to increase your branding a lot. And why is 90% of them failing? And we look back at the elevator pitch. They can't all be terrible ideas. A lot of great ideas get passed up on because we're not speaking the language that our audience understands. There's a huge problem in the creative industry. We talk about marketers who don't understand the value of design. We talk about designers who don't communicate the value of their work. And getting each other to work together is the biggest hurdle that's stopping all this from going well. A lot of this happens from storytelling. We're not presenting the story in a way that makes people feel like they're connected to the brand. So let's talk about what a brand is. You design a logo, you have a slogan, you maybe make a store with a little e-commerce site. Do you have a brand yet? No. You don't have a brand until people start using your product or service, and enough people have the same feeling about that product or service where they can communicate what your brand does, what it makes them feel, without you having to pitch to them. You look at Apple, very common example. I have a MacBook Pro, an iPad Pro, and an iPhone. There are a lot of other really great products out there. But one of the genius things Apple did when they launched their products was they didn't just launch the product. You can get an Android, you can get a Google Pixel. They're all good phones, relatively. What they made you feel was that if you didn't stick with Apple, you weren't part of the Apple ecosystem. You weren't part of their tribe. And that is crucial. People don't join brands. They're looking for meaning, and they're looking for a tribe to join. People don't buy a Rolex because they need to know what time it is. They buy it for status. And Rolex actually acknowledged the fact that there's so many counterfeits that they came up with a genius marketing advertisement that said, even the fakes give you the feeling. Think about that for a second. You're talking about a watch that can go upwards of $50,000, and all they're advertising on is the feeling. Only the fakes give you the feeling. Genius. Look at Nike. Recently I watched the movie Air. Has anybody seen it? Fantastic movie. Learned a lot of stuff about Nike that you didn't know. And one of the interesting things about the way they made the film was they never showed Michael Jordan's face once in the movie. All they did was talk about the design of the shoe, communicating the value of what putting his name on that shoe would be, and how it wouldn't just create a shoe that'll be the hot fad for the next few months. It's going to create an ecosystem where people want the Jordan. Here's my Jordans. Take the Jordan swoosh off the shoe. Is it still as valuable? So that's what the problem is right now. The language of tribes and branding is different. We need to learn how to ask better questions. That is where we are going to solve this problem. As a CX person, we solve problems. That's what we do. We're in the business of solving problems. And a lot of times, the problem you're solving may not be the right problem. The problem the customer tells you may not be the problem they're actually having. A lot of times, the customer is going to tell you what they want, and you have to be able to tell them what they need. It's not always the easiest conversations, but it's something that has to happen. I think about 15 years ago, I grew up being told the value of what being a doctor would be, what being this would be, pushed into the career. And believe it or not, I was actually accepted into Michigan's dental school, which is the #1 dental school in the country. And 2 years later, I failed out. That's the first time I ever said that in public. Not something to clap about, people. According to my parents. Even worse when you tell your parents that you're leaving dental school to work in the cannabis industry. We found out that when I left dental school, I was looking for something to do, looking for direction. Obviously, the cannabis industry was boosting, and I started hearing things that were making me kind of ponder about, do they really know how to diagnose their problem? Do they really know what's going on? My plant has a calcium magnesium deficiency, so I need to add more CalMag. No, buddy, you've been overwatering your plants and you killed the root hairs, so you're gonna overwater the plants. Now the light that you have on there, which was normal light, is now too much, you're stressing your plant out, and it's dead. So what they thought was the initial problem caused an inaccurate solution, causing them to kill their project. This happens in business constantly. Trying to pitch that to somebody in that industry is a lesson in pitching to a C-suite. It's like an MBA. You have to learn how to create value in different ways. You need to learn how to see, you need to be able to answer the question, what's in it for them? We're not selling to them. This is not a one-hand wash together. This is, I'm gonna help your business get to where it needs to be. Where are you now? Where's your endpoint? And how do we close the gap? And a fallout of that consequence is that my business is going to thrive and I'm going to be able to keep doing what I do. That is something that is lost among a lot of businesses today. There's something that sparks in your mind when someone comes in to sell you something. You kind of turn to get that used car salesman kind of feeling, and you're like, well, if you have 30 seconds, I'll tell you what I can do to help you. It usually doesn't happen in 30 seconds, and if you try to tell me what's going to happen in 30 seconds to get me to make a big decision, financial decision, it's not going to be a good outcome for you. So let's plan a time to sit down and have a real discussion. This all happens with communication. It all boils down to that. So how do we find our true customer? We solve those problems by digging deeper, asking follow-up questions, asking open-ended questions, getting to the root. Keep asking until there's nothing else left for them to say. A lot of times they don't know how to effectively articulate the problem. They just know something's off. And it's up to you to play detective. So marketers, creatives, we need to understand that our new role, we're architects. We create things, we build things, we solve problems for people who have a need. Now, after dental school, after the cannabis industry, I ended up working for a nice little brand called Shinola. Everybody heard of them? I was the manager of the flagship store in downtown Detroit. Got my Shinola on right now. We learned to communicate the value of watches. We call ourselves a luxury brand, and we had to define what does luxury mean to us so we can communicate that to our customers. There was always somebody that walked in with a very particular smile, and they said, I have a $20,000 Rolex on. That's luxury. Why do you guys get to call yourselves a luxury brand? And that's when you kind of step back and you say, what does luxury mean to you? We flip it. Because up until now, up until recently, luxury value has been defined by price. Price isn't always the thing. So we talk to them, do you want a Rolex so that you have status? Or do you want a tie to Detroit? Do you want people to know that you supported a local Detroit brand, that you support bringing manufacturing back to the US, and that you like luxury, affordable watches? You're answering the question, if I buy this, what does that make me? I'm not the type of person that enjoys being scrutinized, but I always get something good out of it. And the best thing I could have done was marry a designer. Somebody who can see every little meticulous detail in every instance of your life. We ended up getting married at the Henry Ford Museum. It was my wife's idea. I just thought it was a good venue, and the date was open. The price was a little insane. Very insane. So I said to my wife, why don't we consider other places? And she said, the Henry Ford Museum is where we had our first date. We live in a luxury, we live in a historic home, and Lovett Hall is a historic building. It's always going to be there. We can bring our grandkids there and show them where we got married. It gives us that feeling of how we got together, how we started. We met on the app Hinge, although we should have known each other from undergrad. And that has one of the best marketing slogans I've ever heard. The dating app that's meant to be deleted. Every other dating app that's marketed right now is meant to keep you swiping. Meant to keep you looking for that next person. Ping, you haven't been swiping in a while. You should come check your notifications. No in the history of marketing and branding and app design has a company come out and said, I'm going to solve the problem by making you not use our product. And it worked. And we deleted the product. We didn't need it anymore. It was for us and then it wasn't. So then, fast forward a little bit, and now my wife is pregnant. Our daughter Amelia is going to turn 1 next week. For her baby shower, my wife was putting together our registry. Another thing I think can get quite ridiculous. I don't know if anyone has ever shopped for a baby stroller before, but that is the equivalent of buying a BMW versus buying a used Pinto. I see this stroller on our registry, and I see the price, and it's $1,300. And what I asked her was, are you out of your mind? First of all, you have the nerve to put it on the registry to ask other people to spend that much for us. Let alone, what are we going to do with the $1,300? That's like having a gold toilet. So, it was an UPPAbaby V2. I learned that very significantly because the more I learned about how much status it created among other new parents, the more I started to fall into that tribe. I found myself at Shinola when I should have been selling watches, coming up to couples who were in their baby strollers saying, oh, I have the same one. Oh, I love it. Doesn't it handle great? We start talking about the features and products like it was a car. And next thing you know, we are in the same tribe of people who have an UPPAbaby V2. Go figure. It wasn't necessarily better than the $400 Graco, but it gave us the feeling of being in that tribe where we can talk to people and say, I connect with you. We probably think alike. We could probably work together. Finding people that thinks alike with you is everything. Just like dating. And understanding how to reach out to these people and how to get their contact and create a long-lasting, meaningful relationship is the only way it's going to happen. One of my employees told me about one night when he's trying to get a girlfriend, everybody knew, and he was at the bar one night, and he was telling us about how he met this woman, And they had the most amazing conversation. They connected on almost every level. And at the end of the night, they part ways. She says, call me. He forgot to get her number. So what is the value of that interaction? Just like in business, just like in dealing with customers, what is the value of that interaction if you don't build enough of a rapport to learn how to connect with each other in a way that you're going to want to talk to each other again, to position yourself to be in that space that you're going to be able to connect, find new ways to work together, find a way to solve their problem, and in turn, make yourself better. Now, we talk about the client, the customer, and solving their problem. And I had a disagreement with the director of retail at Shinola. Not somebody great to have a disagreement with, but it was something I felt very important about, was that the most important client is not your customer, it's yourself. It's to keep your personal development up. We talk about solving problems for our customers, and they say, oh, I need this done. Okay, I can do that. And eventually, they're going to upscale. And when they upscale, and I don't, and we're not on that same level anymore, how am I going to help them? So, when I'm talking about putting value towards your own development, understanding it in the context of enabling your customer to make the best decision for their business, that's value. The CEO, all they want to know is, how much money am I going to get back? How much time is it going to take? And why do you need that $1,500 font? So you need to understand how to be able to dissect what they're thinking, which takes getting to know them, which takes a true understanding. It takes authenticity. Authenticity is practiced. It doesn't come easy. It often doesn't come from following a script. We talk about pitching, and for 2 years straight, I was the leading salesperson in all of Shinola. We have 24 stores all throughout the country. And month over month, quarter over quarter, I was the leading salesperson. And I was the worst person at pitching it when we practiced our sales training. Our trainer came up with a list of speaking points about all of our watches, and we did role-playing exercises where we had to pitch the product using these speaking points. I was terrible, yet I could sell anything to anyone. Because what I was doing was in the moment. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't rehearsed. It was authentic. Instead of saying, which watch do you want to buy? We start with, who are you shopping for? What's the occasion? Are you looking for something dressier every day? If I sell them a $6,000 watch, it's only cool for about 10 minutes. If I don't get them to walk in the store a second time, it's failed. I didn't sell something, they bought it from me. So, are you going to sell? Or are you going to enable them? Be a person that strives to solve problems. Be a person that understands that the customer's value is in your best interest, always. So after the cannabis industry, after everything, my wife convinced me to be a UX designer. She said I had an eye for design. And I learned very quickly that I'm not a designer. I did a certificate program in UX, cool. I can mess around with Adobe, cool. But then I'm thinking about the wrong problems. I'm not thinking about the problems of a UX designer. I was thinking about the why, not the what and the how. The what and the how is my wife's business. She builds a wireframe of an app and hands it to me and says, see if you can set up a user profile. And I'm going through it and saying, well, your call to action isn't leading to a good value proposition. And we start having these incredible banters. And we talk about disagreement in the workplace, and people look at it like it's a bad thing. And it depends on the context, and it depends on who you have the arguments with. Disagreements can be a beautiful thing. I've had very amazing disagreements that have led to very awesome outcomes. I've had disagreements with my wife about should I do an MBA, and that led me to finding the first program, master's program in the country for CX at Michigan State. I thought I found a new home in school. I found a passion here. I found a way, a platform for me to ask why more often. And the cool thing is that I'm working with people from all different industries and all different hierarchy levels, and we learn about the different problems they have, problems that you couldn't even conceive. I bought my wife a purse from Shinola. It was a very nice bag, very popular, but it happened to have round straps. The round straps happen to roll off her shoulder when you shoulder it. Poor design, but you can't make it flat because the bag is cylindrical. Not a great design. Something I would never have seen in a million years, but a product designer would see in a second. It's a problem that needed help fixing. So find the value in design, find a way to communicate, and make the best for the people you help. Any questions? Yes?
What if you're afraid of your ideas, your own ideas?
The afraid monster.
I'm,
So here's a good example. Here's a good story about that. Steve Jobs, when the Mac was first coming out, when they were writing the code for it, they had a date set. Everything was planned. The keynote speech was planned. And the software engineers came to him soon before the launch and said, you know what? I am afraid we're not going to make the deadline. We need to push the event back 2 weeks. And Steve Jobs looked at them and he said very calmly, no. We're releasing it in 2 weeks with your name on it. You've been working on this for months. How much of a difference is 2 weeks going to make? So we look at how much time we procrastinate trying to get things perfect because we're afraid of not being seen as perfect right off the bat. We're afraid to start. We're afraid to just do it. And we never start. Procrastinate, it's the cause of procrastination. Perfectionism is the leading cause of procrastination. There is no such thing as perfection. Can you look at any project you've ever done in your life, any assignment you've ever turned in, and say there isn't something I could have done to make that better versus done is better than perfect? It's not easy if you're afraid to start, but think about it like this. If you're afraid to start or if you don't know where to start, ask yourself if you have enough clarity on what the problem is. Because maybe you don't know what problem you're actually here to solve. So that's where you ask questions. If somebody just came into Shinola and said, I need a watch, I could have just sold them this. If I hadn't asked them, who are you shopping for? What's the occasion? I need a watch for my son, he's graduating high school. I need a watch for my daughter's wedding. I need a watch for this. Then you can curate a certain product for them. You know exactly what they need and you can deliver it as clearly and concisely as possible. Clarity. Yes?
I'm history buff, and I want to know how each of these lunch programs in Shinola and go from complexity membership from Shinola in the 40s because it was a shoe shining, product.
Yes.
So do you think people have just forgotten like them, or was there an issue with that? I don't know at what point in time.
Are you talking about the connection between the shoe polish and the company? Or
Yeah, but the same ownership of Shinola in general.
so a lot of like rumors about why that is what it is. We joke about that a lot at work. So we don't have any direct connection to the shoe polish company.
Right.
And just to clarify, I'm not speaking on behalf of Shinola over here. So we bought the name of the brand, and the way I see it, they were a little bit ambiguous about the meaning behind it because they wanted people to interpret their own meaning. Get people talking about, oh, maybe they did it because of this, maybe because of this. So my theory is that you're looking at a brand that was once the biggest name in shoe polish. Right now, if I need shoe polish, I go for Kiwi. That's it. So in 1900, if you needed a shoe polish, you went to Shinola. And then they went out of business. It shows what a huge company that is succeeding and thriving can end up with, depending on how circumstances turn out. So the way Shinola started, when they bought the brand, the city was in ruins. You couldn't walk the street on Canfield safely at all. And nobody wanted to be there. So manufacturing jobs were leaving, a lot of GM issues were happening. And what they did was they bought the name of a brand that people knew once as big and went out of business, and they revived Detroit, the city of Detroit, just like they're reviving the name of a brand. And that gave a relatable thing for them to say, that reminds me of this, I can think of them. How did we do it? Not by starting a watch company. We put a dog park down the street. People love their dogs, and people don't often know that Shinola put that dog park there. What's the first thing we want to get people doing is getting out and using the city, getting them to feel what Detroit feels, getting them to understand the meaning of the Detroit vibe, Detroit city grit. And everybody loves their dog. So once we put that there, then we start making bikes. We're on a college campus. Now imagine a college student riding his Shinola bike down the street, wearing his Shinola watch, checking it because he's late for class. Now we're getting students out using the business. Now look at people who go to CCS. There's a design school right there. That's where our headquarters are. The 4th and 5th floor are the headquarters for Shinola. So we are able to source product designers. We're able to help people get a head start in their business. We're able to be a friend to the design community, which is a friend to the lifestyle brand. So we didn't start by just focusing on a product to sell. We focused on how we can build connections with everything around the city. And the whole shit from Shinola thing, it's from the movie The Jerk. It's from the 70s with Steve Martin. It's an old quote from that movie, and that's kind of where they get it from. There's no intrinsic meaning behind it. But that's how the story of Shinola came to be. That's how we got the name. As far as the saying, it's just a funny saying. Not much else to read into. But the moral of the story is we built connections with everything around the city that would in turn return that love back to us. And they did tenfold because it's our 10-year anniversary. This way. Who in here has seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Interesting movie. There's a really famous scene, the sell me this pen scene. Now Shinola makes a $100 pen. It's one of my favorite things I ever owned, and I keep it in my pocket consistently when I'm at work. I never thought I would be a pen person. And when customers find out that it's $100, they ask us if we're crazy. So why didn't it work? Why didn't the pitch work in The Wolf of Wall Street when he said, sell me this pen? They started talking about the features of the pen. Oh, it's a good pen, it writes well. But why didn't they tell the person, why don't you hold it? Why don't you see how it feels? This pen has ridges on it. It's nice, has a nice weight to it, grips nicely, it glides smoothly. When they found out that the refill is a Pilot G2 that they can get for $3 at CVS, it really made no difference because the feeling of the pen gave them a feeling of upscale luxury. I want to carry this on me. I want to be a part of this brand. How many people in here have ever pitched to a C-suite? How many people have successfully pitched to a C-suite? Notice I didn't raise my hand. I should have raised it to the first one. I didn't think to do it. I'm just curious. That was just a little test study. Anything else? Any questions? Does somebody want to shout out what's their most pressing problem in their industry today? Just shout it out.
AI,
AI layoffs, that's a problem. Or is it a solution? AI, people are so afraid of AI taking their jobs. And what the consensus is that what AI is going to do is it's going to take a few jobs, but it will create more than double of what it takes away. Remember when I talked about upskilling? Now, look at a copywriter. Somebody who has to sit and write brand copy and all this tedious, long work. Now imagine what AI can come in and do and say, write me an article about this, this, and this with these features. Boom, done. It's not about the AI, it's about the person behind it. We still have to prompt engineer. We still have to code the software. We still have to make it work, make it better. And there's always going to be a role for people. Humans are never going to replace the AI. Not yet, at least. Oh, that was it.
any other questions? All right, round of applause.
He said earlier, he's like, how expensive is this mic? Am I allowed to drop it? I said no. But metaphysical mic drop. Pretty epic. Well, thank you all seriously so much again for coming out. We're going to do it again, of course, next month, because this is what we do, and it's in our monthly routines at this point. So bring your people, continue to show up. I know sometimes summer there's more options of how we spend our time, but I'm just so excited for what's to come. And there's some really special pop-ups happening behind the scenes with some really cool people that I can't wait to share about soon. So thank you so much. I hope you have the best weekend, and we'll see you around. Thank you.